Previously on the double-edge integral Bowie knife build, we made the Damascus, forged the knife very closely to shape, ground it, got the guard squared up with the blade, and made a very nice piercing in the blade. Now the knife is still fixtured in the milling machine, and we're getting started working on the tang area. If you guys haven't seen the previous episodes, I very highly recommend watching them, but we're going to get started today with a little bit of milling. We got a much smaller cutter in there, so I won't be able to do like my profile milling, but I'll be able to plunge at least a hole or two and hopefully get to that very end, and then from there I'll just have to hand file. Well, in playing around with this for a minute, I've made a couple of interesting discoveries. The first one is that this thing is super sick. Huge fan, really liking how this is coming out. The second discovery is that this thing is rather musical. This right here is the highest note that it plays. Keep in mind that I'm dampening it by holding it onto the blade. If you like hang it by something, it would be a little bit louder, I think. Dang. Let's see if I can even cut anything with the jeweler's saw. Might not even work. Now, I put the blade in backwards with the hope that I'll be able to cut towards myself. I don't think that's going to work. There it is. Okay, so as you can tell, I've now moved from hand files to the die filing machine, and it really helps me speed up my workflow of cutting a square slot here. So right now I've got this, just a normal round file. I have it flipped upside down so that it cuts on the downstroke. If you do it the other way, then it is up to you to hold it down tight enough that it doesn't fling it up in the air. Now, if you get this where it pinches on two sides of the file, it'll still pick it up. They don't remove material incredibly fast, but it is more efficient, I think, still than hand filing. It does have a speed control. It's old school variable speed, which means that rather than being like a gearbox or something like that, this little handle that I'm turning down here tightens one of the pulleys in here, and so there's this V-belt that is sucked down, and the closer into the center of this big pulley that it's pulled, the faster the belt goes because of science. All right, I think I'm pretty much done with the die filer from here. I'm now going to clean up the kind of aggressive file marks that are on the inside right here. And I'm going to do that with just a flat file, especially in here. I'll probably have to use some different files to get into the back end of it. But up here, because it's such a long area and we are using such a small little file section, it's really hard to get something actually flat. And so when I'm doing big flat filing sections like that, I like to take my mill file, cant it a little bit, maybe 15, 20 degrees, and then I actually push at an angle as well. And it's kind of like halfway between conventional filing and draw filing, where it leaves a really nice surface finish and the file doesn't clog up nearly as quickly. And so I'd probably, and I have in the past, gone straight to hand sanding at 400 grit from a filed finish. I don't know if I'm able to do that in here. I'm probably going to use stones in between file and sandpaper. We'll see how it goes. So as I was cleaning out the tang area piercing, I noticed something very bad. I noticed a flaw in the forge weld on the interior of the piercing there. Now, it's not actually on the outside, it's just a little inclusion in there. No idea how it happened. I did a lot of aggressive upsetting in that area and a lot of manipulation, so it kind of makes sense. Well, we're going to go ahead and try and remedy this little forge scale situation. I think the easiest way to do that is going to be to fill it up with a little bit of TIG. I have here some 1090 16th inch square rod, and I should be able to get in there and use this as a filler material to fill up that crack. Before we do that, I want to carve it out a little bit, get any extra. I don't think that there's anything left in there, but I want to make sure that there's absolutely nothing left. So we're going to take a little burr and we're going to clean that feller out. I'm pretty sure the muriatic acid got it all, but just to make sure that there's no forge scale or flux trapped in there. The reason why we absolutely want to make sure that there's nothing left in there is that if there is forge scale or flux in there, it can actually bubble up and cause porosity, and we of course don't want that because we want to have a smooth finish in there to be able to sandblast and gold plate over. So that looks really good. Let's head on down to Alex Steele's shop. Now, before we head on down to the other shop, I want to talk to you for a second about our sponsor. I'm really stoked about this one because I've been using their product for quite some time now. You see, my favorite way to start the day pretty much is going to roll Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the morning. So I wake up at the crack of dawn, drive down into Bozeman, get my butt kicked for like an hour or so. But it's great exercise, fantastic cardio, it's mentally stimulating. It's like playing chess, but you get choked, I guess. And at the end of an open mat where you're rolling for an hour straight, it's basically just constant cardio. You're beat and you need something to get you back going. You need hydration. And today's sponsor, Element, is my favorite way to get rehydrated and to stay hydrated throughout the day. They are a zero sugar electrolyte sports mix. Their big push is mainly focusing on salt. The vast majority of people don't have nearly enough salt in their system. I used to get headaches. I don't get headaches anymore since I've been drinking Element. I notice a cognitive boost, especially in the shop, a little bit better energy levels, and I don't feel dehydrated, which is kind of a weird thing to explain, but it's true. It's very fantastic. Now, Element sent me a handful of different products. They sent me their classic citrus flavor, watermelon, raspberry, orange, and they're all tasty, but I think I like citrus the most. That's the one that I've been drinking for like 2 years now. So whether you are an athlete and you need a better way to hydrate, or maybe you get headaches because you're not hydrated or because you don't have enough salt in your system, which is, again, just a massively common issue. And so the main ingredients in Element are 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. These are all absolutely critical things that you need in your diet that, again, most people just aren't getting enough of. So you guys are interested in trying out Element, you can go to drinklmnt.com/Will Stelter to get a free sample pack with any order. That's like all of their 8 different flavors. And if you don't like it, they'll give you your money back, so totally risk-free, but if we're being honest, it's quite good, so that's unlikely. And that link will be in the description down below. I hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you so much, Element, for sponsoring today's episode. With that, let's head on down to the other shop and get this thing patched up. Okay, so here's the plan. This is the piece that we need to fix, but I brought another piece that I did a little bit of testing on yesterday, and I'd like to test out using this as filler rod and then kind of blending it on this piece. So I'm gonna go in kind of over here and use this guy as filler rod. These are a little bit rusty. They were in Florida for a long time, so we're going to quickly clean them up in the grinding room, get them ready to weld, and then after that we can test doing gold plating over that after we kind of blend it out a little bit. So let's get these quickly cleaned up. I don't think we're going to even need 2 of them. We'll just use one, run it over a Scotch-Brite real quick, and then we'll do a little bit of TIG testing, and then we'll figure out exactly how we're going to be able to get into the inside of this. It'll be very interesting, and by interesting I mean not fun. Look at that, there's already a couple of sharp tungstens in here. Don't mind if I do. Let's go grind this off, see how it looks. Number 2. That was successful. You can definitely see that heat affected zone right in there. Let's try sandblasting and then gold plating that area. Okay, throw that in there. You can definitely see it right now. Let's see how it turns out after a little gold plating. So basically, this is a pen plating system, and so you can use it to electroplate different metals onto, well, different metals. And so you're running, I believe it's just a small DC current. You dip your pen into a little bit of liquid, and then you can paint on gold. It is, in fact, wicked cool. Try running a slightly lower voltage, maybe. That looks pretty good. My plating needs a little work, and you can, from certain angles, tell. At a steeper angle like that, you can't really tell, which is good because you can't really look straight on at it inside the tang piercing. All right, I cut another small nick in this guy. We're gonna try slightly lower voltage to see if that helps us at all. I kind of think that maybe it's a hardness difference that makes that, so we might try annealing it with a torch real quick too. We dropped it down to 120 amps. Still got some pooling on the back side there. Build it up just a touch more. I think that looks a little better. Got some fun colors going there. Look at that. Let's anneal it and then try it. Now it should be totally hardened. Cool it off. Let's give that a shot.
I think that hardness difference was a big deal. The spot was right there. You can't tell at all.
Give this a little wipe down, clean up that surface. I think this is right where it was, but I legitimately can't really tell. Yep, I reckon that'll work just fine. So I fixtured it down so that we've got some red rubber on the bottom of the knife. That means that we will be sealing off this little pocket in here. And the reason why we want to do that is so that I can flood this thing with argon. This is 9010 argon shielding gas. Argon is heavier than air. I don't know how to ensure that there's enough argon in there. That ought to do it. Tighten this back down. Now we'll be able to get in there like this and then get in there like this and fill that son of a gun up. Okay, so the camera card filled up with memory. Basically what happened is I started to get the 1090 rod to melt, but then my tungsten got dipped in it and it got stuck. So now we have a blob of 1090 in there, but it hasn't filled up the gap. And so we need to get back in there. I think I've abandoned the idea of having the rubber on the backside. I think it'll be okay without it. It did crater it. Okay. I think that while I'm testing for my Master Bladesmith cert, I'll probably just test for my Master TIG welding certification as well. Alrighty. We really don't need a torch nearly this large to do this. We don't really have a choice though. Alright, it's now cooled down. We can start to file this feller. We're really close to being there, and it looks like there's maybe a tiny bit of undercutting, which is where basically the parent material, the knife in this case, was melted away at the edge. I think we do have a little bit of undercutting. Son of a biscuit. All right, so as you guys can see right here, it's undercut, but it's just like the smallest amount. The real question is it worth filling it in with TIG, or should we just remove that material? Looks to me like we're dealing with probably less than 10 thou. This is a large area to remove 10,000th of an inch from though. Let's get in there with a little bit smaller file. We just swapped one crack for another. Oh man, okay. All right, I think that it's light enough that I can file it out and not really change the shape of anything. That being said, we're gonna do that while we're here in case we do need to change something. Look at that, good as new. If you like slightly worse things. Looks like that diddly done it, so now we can go back to my shop. Right now I'm working on this side of the blade piercing, and there's that little mark that we got when we were milling on it and it decided to move. Now it's absolutely tiny at this point. You can just barely see it, but it's something that I have to get out. So I'm using a stone to do that, and then I'll go back in with some sandpaper and get a nicer satin finish on the inside here. The other thing that I need to focus on is making sure that it would be really easy to just take a little bit off of this side, but I want to keep everything parallel, which means that I have to remove a lot more than just that tiny amount of material that it would take to get that little ding out. Now the thing that I'm needing to work on the spine side of the piercing is that the light lines play rather sharply off of one area. The light catches and it shows that there's a very slight dip in this area. Well, we've got the piercings cleaned up. They've been hand sanded to 220 grits. And I think I'm gonna call it there. I might end up having to take them a little bit higher. I might not. I'm not totally sure. There's a lot of things that I don't know, and that's one of them. What I do know is that that is it for today's episode. We're gonna have to keep on working on it in the next one. I'm very excited. The next steps are gonna be doing some machining work to the end of the tang so that we can affix it to the handle in some way, and then doing the rest of the profiling, grinding bevels, poking holes in the top and bottom of the guard. That's exciting, to me at least. And then finally, heat treat. And heat treat is the thing that I'm the most nervous for by far, because
it might explode. Thank you so much to Element for sponsoring today's episode. Thank you to our patrons for patronizing us, and I will see you guys on the next one where hopefully we don't explode the knife. That's actually always the goal. There's just more of a chance of it tomorrow. Okay, bye.